So that was intense. Evil Dead Rise is the newest Evil Dead film. This is not a sequel or direct sequel or follow-up to any of the Ash stuff. It's not a follow-up to any of those. This is another Evil Dead reboot, like Evil Dead in 2013, directed by Fede Alvarez, or the guy in 2013, that was Fede Alvarez. Lee Cronin directs Evil Dead Rise. What really excited me about Evil Dead Rise is the fact that we were going to a new setting here. We were going away from the cabin in the woods setting, and we're switching it up, going into an apartment building that has a few levels of floor, which makes for a few levels of tension that really escalate in this movie, and we're going to get into all of it because this is another movie that came out this year that I just love. What's funny about Evil Dead, this series as a whole, is I actually didn't watch the entire franchise, or at least I've seen Evil Dead 1, 2, Army of Darkness. I have not seen the one from 2013, and now I've seen Evil Dead Rise. Hello, Venus. Love the original Evil Deads for what they are. I love their camp factor. I love their horrific factor. I love the blending of the two. I think Sam Raimi does a great job with those films. The Fede Alvarez movie from 2013 looked pretty cool. I just haven't seen it. Among the Evil Dead movies I have seen, though, I think Evil Dead Rise might actually be my favorite, at least of the follow-ups to the original. There's a bit of self-aware humor to this. There's a self-aware side to this movie that's really fun, but also really sick. And I like it because it really plays into that bleak humor aspect of Evil Dead. And that element of this movie, I was very surprised by. I actually thought this movie was going to be all dark, all dread, all sadness. It's not. What I love a lot about this movie is it balances both tones really, really well. We have a nice anchor for the story, the fact that it's about a mom. It's about a family of people that start dealing with the Book of the Dead this time, not just a group of friends. So there's an extra psychological element added to this one that really feeds into the emotional complexities of this story. I really love the tension, not just from the body horror and the physical horror. This Evil Dead movie has the most, I think, psychological torment behind it. I really loved seeing how Alison Sutherland, who plays the mom, portrays this demon. She does a great job of playing a vulnerable mom who's in a tough position right now in the movie itself before all the demon stuff starts happening. I guess I shouldn't say demon. I'm going to say Deadite. I'm just properly say it. When the Deadite shows up, it is insane, and the wordplay, the dialogue, the conversations this Deadite gets into with the families and the insults it throws their way, not just physically but verbally, is absolutely insane, and it just raises that tension up even more. There are moments where you're just like, wow. I'm having fun because of how much the performer is having fun with the performance. However, this is really uncomfortable, and I love the movie was able to stride us along for the whole entire runtime with that uncomfortable feeling. It just added to that horror of the whole nature of what is going on. Not to mention the kids in this movie. The kids in this do a great job. There are some horrific moments involving body horror. This movie does not shy away from putting kids through that, and this movie could have easily come across as too mean for that, but I don't think it ever did. It's mean, but it's also in the vein of raising that tension up, and it never took me out of the film. I had so much fun with the theater reaction in this movie. There are so many vivid moments where the theater itself was verbally reacting to stuff, and sometimes that could be annoying, but here it just felt like a roller coaster. There are moments where people were like, "Ooh, no, don't!" And it was so much fun seeing that in a horror movie. It was nice being at the cinema with a bunch of people having fun with this. It felt communal. I liked it. Ironic, Evil Dead Rise was able to do that. Such a bleak movie for that. And what I love, too, about this film is the effects themselves, the practicality of them are so well handled. There are moments that could come across as cartoony, but it's not. It's genuinely disgusting, and that goes to the great effects work in this movie. There are scenes where you just feel the intensity and the pain. If you haven't seen the trailer for this movie, honestly don't. Don't watch the trailer, just go watch the film, because you'll be a lot more satisfied, a lot more surprised. There are a lot of moments that breathe out longer in the film, but the trailer, I think, kind of gives away, the climax of certain breathable moments, if that makes sense. If you've seen the trailer and the movie, you'll know what I'm talking about. That's not really on the movie, that's on the marketing. The movie itself, awesome. The pacing is tight. The characters are great. I think Lily Sullivan does a great job as Beth. She is our main lead, and she's at the forefront of this movie. And I really love that this film kind of starts off with a big, it's a family ensemble. The movie works its way to establishing how our main protagonist earns that role, earns that way into being the hero of this movie without giving too much away. And I really enjoyed how the film slowly wove that in, and I really like the actual undertone of the arc that Beth goes through in this film. I think Lily Sullivan really portrays it with a lot of humanity, and it brought an emotional anger and weight to this movie that it needed, so it didn't just become boring, senseless bloodbaths with crazy, zany wackiness at times. It could have really come across as hollow if we didn't have characters to emotionally ground ourselves with and grab onto, but I'm really glad this movie has that as well. It's able to balance those elements all well in one tight package. This movie's not that long. It's about an hour 30, hour 40, something along those lines, or at least it felt like it. I thought the pacing was so perfect. And I also love the opening. The opening title sequence of this movie, chef's kiss, awesome. It's so good. And it immediately sets up the tone of what kind of wacky film you're about to be in for. I really love it, and it's a nice book start of the movie to a book end of the movie, and I won't give it away, but it's cool how they wrap all that around from the start and the finish of the film. I think Evil Dead Rise is a great time at the movies. It's an awesome horror movie. If you're not into body horror or that kind of stuff, if you're not into gore fest, definitely be careful, tread lightly with this one. If you didn't like the other Evil Dead movies, you're of course not going to like this one, because this is more of that times 10. I really loved it. It might be my favorite Evil Dead movie. I loved all the tension. I loved the atmosphere. I liked that there was more of a psychological element to this one, that just, it gripped me more than just having a couple of friends at a cabin, hang out. It's like John Wick 4 did for action exactly what it needed to set out to, and it's a perfect example of what you can do with an action film. I think Evil Dead Rise is a perfect example of what you can do with just a pure entertaining horror film that gets down to the point and does it with style and does it with flair and does it in a way that's emotionally satisfying as well. Evil Dead Rise is incredible. This is a quick review because I don't want to give too much away. There's so much I could gush about, no pun intended, but I think you should just go see this movie. It's late, so you probably already have seen this movie. Go watch Evil Dead Rise. It's awesome. I'm Justin. This is my scatterbrain review of Evil Dead Rise. Thank you so much for watching, guys.